The wind howled across the frozen valley, carrying dust and snow like ghosts of the dead. Night had fallen over the ruined planet, its twin moons hidden behind thick storm clouds. Only a single figure moved through that endless white, a human traveler named Ethan. He walked slowly, wrapped in an old military coat, his boots crunching over the ice. Each breath rose as mist, fading into the darkness around him. Ethan had been searching for metal scraps to fix his ship, nothing more. The planet was abandoned, no signals, no life, just silence. But then, he heard it, a faint cry carried by the wind. He froze, his hand moving to the blaster on his belt, listening carefully. There it was again, softer this time, trembling, desperate. He followed the sound through the snowdrifts until his boots hit something soft. He looked down and saw a small shape curled in the snow. It was a girl. No, not human. Her skin shimmered faint blue under the weak light of his torch. White hair spread like silk across the ground, tiny crystals of ice clinging to it. Her body trembled violently, and her lips were turning pale silver from the cold. Ethan knelt beside her, his breath catching. "Hey, can you hear me?" he whispered, brushing snow from her face. Her eyelids fluttered, and strange golden eyes opened, glowing faintly even in the dark. She looked terrified, weak, confused, and said something in a language he couldn't understand. Her voice was soft, like a song breaking apart in the cold air. Without thinking, Ethan pulled off his coat and wrapped it around her small body. The warmth of the fabric covered her, and she made a tiny sound, half sigh, half sob. He lifted her into his arms. She was light, too light, like a bird with broken wings. "Don't worry, kid, you're safe now," he muttered, though he wasn't sure it was true. As he walked back through the storm, the snow thickened until it hid the stars themselves. Inside his old ship, the heating system barely worked, but it was better than the blizzard outside. He laid the girl on a seat and turned on the emergency heater. Her fingers twitched as warmth slowly returned, and her eyes blinked open again. "Where am I?" she whispered in broken English, surprising him. "On my ship," Ethan said gently, kneeling beside her. "You were freezing out there." She looked around, frightened, clutching the coat tighter around herself. "Your name?" he asked, hoping to calm her. She hesitated, then said softly, "Lyra," the name rolling off her tongue like a note of music. Ethan smiled faintly. "I'm Ethan. Nice to meet you, Lyra." She stared at him, eyes wide, as if seeing a human for the first time. Outside, thunder cracked through the frozen air, making the ship tremble. Ethan checked his radar. No storms on record, but something was moving fast above the clouds. He frowned, adjusting the scanner, but all he saw were static waves. Whatever it was blocking signals, maybe even scanning his ship. He turned to Lyra, who now sat quietly, staring at the floor. "Were you alone out there?" he asked. "Was someone with you?" Her lips trembled, and she shook her head slowly. "I don't remember." A single tear slid down her cheek, glowing faintly gold before fading. Ethan didn't know what kind of species she was, but that glow wasn't normal. Something deep inside him whispered that this was no ordinary child. The storm grew louder, wind hammering against the hull. Ethan closed the hatch and dimmed the lights, still watching her. She had already fallen asleep, her breathing slow, her hands gripping the edge of his coat. He sat down beside her and looked out the window at the snow-filled sky. He had seen many strange things in his life, but tonight felt different. A soft hum filled the cabin, not from the engines, but from the girl herself. A faint golden light spread from her chest, pulsing like a heartbeat. Ethan leaned closer, eyes wide, the light reflected in his pupils. "Who are you?" he whispered, though she couldn't hear him. The hum stopped, and silence returned, deep and heavy as the night outside. He didn't know that high above the storm clouds, something vast moved through the dark. Black ships, their hulls engraved with alien symbols, scanning the surface below. They had found her signal again, their lost princess, the heir of a queen who ruled through fear. And now, the humans had her. Down below, Ethan covered her with another blanket, unaware that his simple act of kindness had already changed the destiny of 2 galaxies. The storm outside finally began to fade, but inside the ship, silence pressed heavy around Ethan and the strange girl, Lyra. The heater hummed softly, a weak glow filling the small cabin. Ethan leaned back in his chair, staring at her sleeping face, wondering who she really was. Her skin shimmered faint blue under the dim light, and every few minutes, a faint pulse of gold ran across her veins, glowing like liquid light beneath her skin. He rubbed his eyes, trying to convince himself it was just fatigue. But curiosity won, and he reached for his handheld scanner. He aimed it at her gently, careful not to wake her. The screen flickered, lines of code flashing fast, and then the device beeped sharply. Ethan frowned. Leaning closer, the readout made no sense. Genetic signature, unknown species, it said, followed by another line. Warning, restricted bio pattern detected. He blinked, confused. Restricted? What the hell does that mean? He muttered. Then the scanner flashed again, showing an ancient symbol, one he had only seen once before, in military archives. It belonged to the Elendari, a race of royal alien bloodlines that had vanished centuries ago after the Galactic War. But no one ever saw them again, not alive at least. He stared at Lyra in disbelief. You're not supposed to exist, he whispered. Suddenly, the scanner sparked and died, smoke curling from its edge. Lyra gasped in her sleep, twisting as if something burned inside her. Ethan rushed forward, grabbing her hand. Hey, it's okay. Her eyes opened, glowing bright gold for a split second before dimming again. Don't be afraid, he said, trying to calm her. She looked around, terrified. They'll find me, she whispered, her voice shaking. They always find me. Ethan's stomach tightened. Who? Who's looking for you? She shook her head. Bad people, she said, then added softly. Mother said to hide. That one word, mother, made his heart skip. He remembered the signal from the storm earlier, the strange interference. Someone was searching, and it wasn't weather interference, it was tracking. Ethan stood quickly, going to the control panel, his fingers flying over the buttons. The radar glowed faint red, showing 3 fast-moving signals approaching from the upper atmosphere. Not natural, not debris, ships. He cursed under his breath and grabbed his blaster. Lyra, we need to move, he said firmly. She didn't understand at first, just looked at him with wide golden eyes. He pulled her up gently, wrapping her tighter in his coat. Stay close to me. The ship's engines rumbled as he powered them up. Snow blew off the hull as fire burst from the thrusters, lifting them into the gray sky. Outside, lightning flashed. No, not lightning, but weapons fire. Blue plasma bolts streaked through the clouds, missing them by meters. Lyra screamed, covering her ears as the air filled with thunder. Hold on, Ethan shouted, jerking the controls. The ship spun hard left, narrowly avoiding another shot. He flew low over the icy mountains, the radar flashing red behind him. Those are hunter drones, he muttered. Whoever's after you doesn't want you rescued. The ship shook violently as one drone clipped their wing. Sparks flew across the cockpit. Ethan gritted his teeth. Come on, old girl, hold together. The engines roared as he forced the ship toward a narrow canyon below. They barely made it through, scraping the rock walls, but the drones overshot, vanishing into the storm. Silence returned, broken only by Lyra's soft crying. Ethan turned, breathing hard. You okay? She nodded weakly, tears glowing faintly before fading into her skin. You said your mother told you to hide, he said, lowering his voice. Where is she? Lyra looked down, whispering, She's gone, because of me. Ethan felt a strange chill that wasn't from the cold. Outside, the storm cleared, and stars appeared again, endless and sharp. He didn't understand what kind of power could make a child glow, or what kind of danger could bring hunters across space. But deep inside, he knew one thing. If they were willing to kill for her, she had to be important. And that meant protecting her wasn't just an act of kindness anymore. It was a choice that would decide the fate of both their worlds. As the ship drifted quietly through the night sky, Lyra whispered something in a language he didn't know. For a second, Ethan thought he heard another voice answering her, faint and distant, like a mother calling from across the stars. He looked at the child wrapped in his coat and sighed. Whoever you are, kid, he said softly, you just dragged me into something big. Outside, far beyond the cold clouds, the 3 ships turned again, following his trail, silent and patient as shadows. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just begun. The stars outside the cockpit looked peaceful, but Ethan knew peace was a lie. Somewhere beyond that silence, the hunters were still tracking them, moving like shadows between the stars. He sat at the controls, eyes fixed on the radar, while Lyra sat quietly beside him, hugging her knees beneath his old coat. Her golden eyes followed the blinking lights on the screen, afraid but curious. She looked too young to understand what danger meant, yet her gaze carried a sadness far older than her years. Ethan sighed. "They're still out there," he muttered, tapping the console. Lyra tilted her head. "They won't stop," she said softly. "They always come when I shine too much." He frowned. "When you shine?" She nodded, pressing her small hand against her chest. "The light inside me, it calls them." Ethan leaned back, trying to hide his unease. "Then we'll make sure it stays quiet for a while," he said, forcing a smile. She smiled faintly, trusting him more than she should. Hours passed, and exhaustion crept in. The ship drifted through a belt of frozen debris, tiny shards of ice glittering like diamonds in the starlight. Ethan's eyelids grew heavy, but every sound from the engines kept him alert. He had been a soldier once, and he knew when someone was hunting. The feeling of being watched never truly went away. Lyra finally broke the silence. "Ethan," she whispered, "did you ever lose someone?" He turned to her, surprised. "Yeah," he said after a pause. "A lot of people, why?" She looked down, her fingers tracing a circle on the window glass. "Mother said loss makes the heart stronger." Then her voice trembled. "But mine just hurts." Ethan felt something twist inside him, that kind of pain he understood too well. He reached out and rested a hand on her shoulder. "You'll be okay, kid," he said. "You're not alone anymore." She looked up and nodded, her small smile glowing faintly in the cabin light. Suddenly, the radar flashed red again. 3 signals appeared from behind the asteroid field, closing in fast. Ethan cursed under his breath. "They found us again." Lyra's glow brightened instinctively, the golden light spilling across her hands. "Turn it off," he said quickly. "Hide it." "I can't," she cried. "It comes when I'm scared." The ship shook violently as the first plasma bolt hit the hull, the metal groaning in protest. Alarms screamed, lights flickered, smoke filled the cockpit. Ethan gripped the controls and shouted, "Hold tight." He spun the ship sharply, diving between tumbling ice boulders, the engines roaring like wild beasts. The hunters followed, sleek black crafts slicing through the debris like knives through paper. One locked on target, a bright blue beam charging on its nose. Ethan's pulse raced, his hands steady despite the chaos. "Not today," he growled, flipping a manual switch that released the mining drones from the cargo bay. The small machines exploded outward, scattering metal fragments into the enemy's path. The beam fired, hit a drone, and exploded in a brilliant flash, shaking the field apart. Chunks of ice and steel slammed into the hunters, sending 2 of them spinning away. Only one remained, persistent and fast. Lyra's eyes widened. "It won't stop," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "Then neither will I." He pulled the ship toward a nearby nebula, a storm of pink and blue gases swirling like a living ocean. "Are you insane?" The onboard AI crackled. "Entering the Viral Nebula is suicide." Ethan grinned faintly. "Yeah, well, today I'm feeling lucky." They plunged into the glowing clouds, lightning arcs flashing around them, scanners going blind. The last hunter tried to follow, but static tore through its systems. Its signal vanished in the storm. Inside the ship, calm returned for a moment. Lyra leaned back, her face pale, her breathing quick. Ethan turned off the alarms and crouched beside her. "You did good. We're safe for now." She nodded weakly, then reached out and touched his arm. A sudden warmth spread through his skin, golden light seeping into him for just a second. It felt like sunlight and sorrow mixed together. When she pulled her hand away, he saw a faint symbol glowing where she had touched him, a small circular mark, shimmering like starlight. "What is this?" he asked, but she only looked away silent. "It means you can find me," she whispered finally, "even if I'm lost." Her words sent a strange chill down his spine. Ethan didn't notice the ship's sensors quietly activating again, recording the strange energy reading. Far away, in the dark heart of the galaxy, a transmission reached an ancient receiver. A deep voice echoed through the void. The child has been found. And somewhere unseen, a throne of light flickered to life, as a queen opened her eyes for the first time in centuries. Back inside the nebula, Ethan adjusted the engines, unaware of the storm he had awakened. Lyra sat quietly, staring at the swirling colors outside. She whispered to herself, "Mother will come." Ethan heard it, but said nothing. For the first time since the war, he was afraid, not for himself, but for what she might bring upon them both. The nebula glowed outside the viewport, painting the ship in waves of pink and violet light. Ethan stared through it, hands tight on the controls, waiting for sensors to return. For a moment, everything felt still, almost peaceful, but deep in his chest the unease only grew. They had escaped the hunters for now, yet he knew no one sent warships after a child unless she was something more. Lyra sat curled near the heater, eyes half closed, the golden shimmer of her veins faint but constant. She looked tired, too tired for her small body to carry such power. Ethan knelt beside her, offering water. "Drink this, kid. You need strength." She nodded and took it, whispering thanks, her voice soft as wind. He studied her face, those glowing eyes, the strange calm she carried even in fear. "Lyra," he asked carefully, "you said your mother told you to hide." She nodded slowly. "She said others would come for me when the stars forgot her name." Her words made no sense, yet they chilled him deeper than the void outside. The radar blinked once, then died again, static sweeping across the screen. A faint hum filled the air, not mechanical, something older, alive. Lyra looked up sharply, her eyes glowing brighter. "She's calling," she whispered. Ethan frowned. "Who's calling?" Before she could answer, the light in the cabin changed. A beam of soft gold poured from the floor, forming a circle of energy. Ethan jumped back, pulling his blaster instinctively, but Lyra stood up and stepped into the light without fear. The glow rose higher, shaping itself into the image of a woman made of stars. Tall, regal, her form shimmering between beauty and power. Her eyes, the same golden hue as Lyra's, looked straight at Ethan. He froze, unable to speak. "My daughter," the figure said, her voice echoing like music across the walls, "and the human who shelters her." Lyra gasped, "Mother." Ethan lowered his weapon, breath shallow. "You're her mother." The projection smiled faintly. "I am Queen Alindra of the Elendari," she said. "And if you are hearing this message, then my empire has fallen." Ethan's pulse quickened. The name was legend, whispered in old war records. The Elendari were rulers of light, their technology centuries ahead of any known race. But they vanished after the Great War with humanity. He stared at the projection, unable to reconcile myth with the girl beside him. Queen Alindra continued, "My people feared humanity, but I did not. I saw in your kind something rare, compassion born from struggle." Her tone softened. "My daughter carries within her the seed of both creation and ruin. Those who hunt her wish to awaken the weapon inside her heart." Ethan glanced at Lyra, who stood silently, tears gathering in her golden eyes. "She's just a kid," he whispered, "not a weapon." The hologram flickered. "Protect her, Ethan Cross of the Terran fleet." He froze again. "How do you know my name?" The Queen's image smiled sadly. "Because you fought at Vale's Gate, where you spared thousands of our kind. I saw you then." Ethan's chest tightened, memories flashing, burning ships, dying screams, the day he refused to fire. "So this is my punishment," he muttered, half to himself. The Queen's voice grew dimmer. "It is not punishment, human, it is destiny." The projection shimmered one last time, leaving behind a sphere of golden crystal that floated between them. Lyra touched it gently, and images filled the cabin, cities of light, alien suns, and the shadow of an empire collapsing under its own greed. A final whisper echoed. "When her heart opens, the galaxy will tremble." Then the light vanished, leaving only silence and the faint hum of the engines. Ethan stared at the spot where the Queen had been. His thoughts spun in chaos. The child he'd saved was the daughter of a queen humanity once called its greatest enemy. He turned toward Lyra. "Why didn't you tell me?" She looked down, voice trembling. "I didn't remember until now. Mother locked my memories to keep me safe." He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Well, kid, Safe isn't exactly what we are anymore. She smiled weakly. You could leave me if you want. He shook his head. Not happening. You're my responsibility now. Outside, lightning arced across the nebula, and for a brief moment, Ethan saw something hidden within the clouds, a massive structure, ancient and luminous, floating like a cathedral in the storm. Symbols glowed faintly on its hull, the same sigil that now burned on his arm where Lyra had touched him. He whispered, "What is that?" Lyra's gaze followed his, her eyes wide. "Home," she said, voice filled with awe and fear. As the ship drifted toward the shining ruin, the mark on Ethan's skin pulsed brighter. Far away, unseen forces stirred, empires shifting as news spread across hidden channels. The lost heir of the Elendari was alive, and a human had found her. Inside the cockpit, Ethan exhaled slowly, gripping the controls. He looked at Lyra, who watched the light of her old world rise ahead. "Hang on, kid," he said quietly. "Let's go find out what your mother left behind." And with that, the ship glided into the storm of light, towards secrets that could shake the entire galaxy. The ancient structure floated before them like a sleeping god, hidden in the nebula's heart. Ethan slowed the ship, awe and dread twisting inside him. Massive towers rose from the glowing mist, their surfaces carved with alien symbols that pulsed faint gold. Lyra pressed her hands to the window, eyes wide. "This was my home," she whispered, "before the war took everything." Her voice carried sorrow that didn't belong to a child. Ethan felt it, too, the ghosts of history breathing through the silent corridors of light. They docked near a broken hangar, the ship's hull creaking as it latched onto the magnetic locks. Ethan grabbed his blaster and a portable light. "Stay close," he told Lyra. The air inside the structure shimmered, still alive after centuries. They stepped through a corridor lined with statues, tall, regal figures made of crystal, watching them pass with eternal judgment. Lyra's footsteps echoed softly, her glowing eyes reflecting the golden engravings on the walls. She stopped suddenly, reaching for one of the statues. "That's her," she said. "My mother." Ethan studied the face, the same calm strength, the same light in the eyes. He nodded silently, unsure what to say. At the end of the corridor, they found a chamber filled with energy crystals, pulsing in rhythm like a heartbeat. A single console stood in the center, covered in alien runes. Ethan approached cautiously, his translator blinking as it tried to decode the symbols. Before he could touch it, the ship's comms buzzed to life. A voice broke through, sharp and commanding. "Pilot Ethan Cross, identify yourself immediately." His blood ran cold. It was the Terran fleet. He stared at the console, then at Lyra, who looked confused. "Your people," she whispered. "They found us." Ethan turned on the communicator. "This is Captain Cross," he said carefully. "I'm on a derelict station, unarmed, and not alone." Static crackled. Then another voice came. Admiral Kane, his old commander. "Cross, you've been missing for 72 hours. What in hell are you doing in restricted space?" Ethan hesitated. "I found someone." Kane's tone hardened. "Our sensors picked up alien energy. Are you harboring a hostile?" Ethan glanced at Lyra, who shrank back behind him, her small hands gripping his coat. He took a deep breath. "She's not hostile, sir. She's a child." There was silence, then a cold laugh. "A child of the Elendari, perhaps." Ethan froze. "How do you know that name?" Kane replied. "We've been tracking her signal since she escaped containment. She's not a child, Cross. She's a weapon, the last key to the Queen's technology." Ethan's heart pounded. "That's not true. She's alive. She's scared." Kane's voice grew harder. "You're under direct order to hand her over. Your ship will be boarded in 10 minutes. Ethan shut off the channel, fury burning behind his calm face. Lyra tugged at his sleeve. "They want to take me away." He knelt before her. "Listen, no matter what happens, don't be afraid." She shook her head, tears forming. "They'll hurt you because of me." He smiled faintly. Wouldn't be the first time someone tried. He turned to the console, hoping for answers. The runes flared to life as if sensing his desperation. A holographic interface formed, displaying a map of the galaxy filled with burning stars. Lines connected worlds long thought dead, human colonies, alien realms, all once touched by Elendari power. In the center was a single word glowing brighter than the rest: awakening. Ethan frowned. What is this, a weapon grid? Lyra whispered. It's her heart, the Queen's last gift to the galaxy. She built it to heal, not destroy. Ethan understood then why everyone wanted her. She was the key to activating it. A sudden alarm blared through the station. The Terran boarding craft had arrived, their blue lights flashing through the nebula mist. Ethan cursed, grabbing Lyra's hand. We need to go now. They ran back toward the ship, boots echoing against the glowing floor. As they reached the hangar, the sound of magnetic boots and rifles filled the air. Human soldiers stepped through the breach, led by a familiar face, his old co-pilot, Marcus Hale. Ethan, Marcus said, lowering his weapon slightly. Don't make this harder, just hand her over. Ethan stared at him, disbelief turning into anger. You told them where I was. Marcus sighed. You think you can save her? She's not a girl, she's a living bomb. She's not, Ethan said sharply. She's more human than any of us. The soldiers aimed their rifles. The air thick with tension. Lyra clung to Ethan's leg, trembling, her glow flickering like a dying flame. He raised his blaster, but his hands shook. These were his own people. Marcus stepped forward. Don't do this. Ethan whispered. You already did, and fired. A single stun shot hit the lights, plunging the hangar into darkness. Shouts and confusion filled the air, and in the chaos Ethan pulled Lyra back into the ship, sealing the hatch. Engines roared as plasma bolts slammed against the hull. Through the viewport, he saw Marcus staring as the ship blasted away into the storm. Ethan gritted his teeth, heart heavy. He had just turned against his own kind for a child who didn't belong to his world. But as Lyra took his hand and whispered, "Thank you," he knew there was no turning back. The betrayal was done, and now, the entire galaxy would come for them both. The nebula churned violently outside the cockpit, pink and violet clouds colliding like living storms. Ethan's ship raced through the chaos, engines screaming, every vibration setting his nerves on edge. Lyra clutched his arm, her small hands trembling. Ethan, they're coming closer. He nodded grimly, scanning the radar, the blinking red dots now multiplying. The Terran fleet, relentless, had tracked them through the nebula's maze. He tightened his grip on the controls. Hold on, kid, it's about to get rough. Plasma beams sliced through the storm outside, missing the ship by mere meters. The hull groaned under the impact, sparks flying across the cockpit. Lyra's eyes widened, glowing faint gold, her pulse quickening as the energy around her reacted. Ethan turned. What's happening? She shook her head, voice shaking. I don't know. The glow intensified, golden light spilling across her veins, her hands glowing brighter than ever. Ethan ducked instinctively as a massive bolt struck the side of the ship, throwing them sideways. Lyra, listen to me, he shouted. Focus, calm down. Outside, the lead Terran destroyer fired again, its cannons slicing clouds and stars alike. Ethan dodged, weaving between floating shards of ice and debris, but more shots were coming, faster and deadlier. Then Lyra screamed, a high-pitched sound that cut through the chaos. A wave of golden light erupted from her chest, expanding outward in a protective shield. The plasma bolts collided with it, sparks and energy scattering. The ship's hull rattled violently, but none of the shots penetrated. Ethan's eyes widened. You're doing it. You're protecting us. Lyra's lips trembled. I didn't mean to. It just. The largest destroyer faltered, its systems overloaded by the unexpected energy. Ethan's heart pounded, adrenaline and fear mixing. Keep it up, kid. We're not done yet. He dove into a narrow canyon of floating asteroids, hoping the terrain would slow the fleet. Lyra's shield followed, wrapping around the ship like a second skin, pulsing with golden light. Each strike made her cry out, but the protective barrier held firm. Ethan could feel her energy vibrating through the ship, powerful and alive. He realized then she wasn't just a child. She was a force of nature, untrained but unstoppable. One of the destroyers fired a massive bolt aimed directly at Lyra's side. Ethan shouted, twisting the ship sharply, but the energy hit the barrier. The shockwave rattled the entire cabin, sending panels and tools flying. Lyra screamed, her eyes brighter than the stars themselves. Then, A sudden calm fell over the storm, the golden glow stabilizing into a gentle pulse. The destroyers faltered again, their sensors unable to track her energy. Even the nebula seemed to shift, bending light and gas around the glowing girl. Ethan grabbed her hand. "You did it, Lyra. You stopped them." Her voice shook, whispering, "I don't know how it just came out." He nodded. "Doesn't matter, kid. It worked." They flew in silence for a moment, catching their breath. But Ethan knew the fleet wasn't gone. They would repair, regroup, and come again. Lyra leaned against him, exhausted, golden light dimming to soft pulses. He brushed a strand of white hair from her glowing forehead. "You're incredible," he said softly. Her lips curled faintly into a smile. "You saved me, Ethan." The ship drifted through the nebula, battered but intact. Ethan activated the navigation console, plotting a course toward the Elendari ruins ahead. He looked at Lyra. "Next stop, you're home." She nodded, eyes wide and filled with awe. "Mother's place." Suddenly, the communicator crackled, a faint, distorted voice coming through. "Ethan Cross, this is Admiral Kane. Stand down or face full engagement." Ethan clenched his jaw. "Not happening," he muttered, shutting off the channel. He realized the galaxy had just opened its teeth at them, and there was no turning back. Lyra's hands glowed softly again, and Ethan felt a warmth spread through his body. Her energy pulsed like a heartbeat in sync with the ship's engines. He smiled faintly. "Guess we're ready for whatever comes next." Far above, unseen by them, the Queen's ancient sensors flickered to life. Somewhere in the void, her gaze followed them, approving yet cautious. Lyra's first awakening had shifted the balance. The hunt would grow fiercer, the stakes higher, and their journey far more dangerous. But for now, they had survived, and Ethan knew one thing clearly. No human fleet, no alien hunter, could touch them while she was beside him. Her light was stronger than weapons, stronger than fear. And together, they would face whatever darkness the galaxy held. Lyra rested against his arm, small but fierce, golden light fading to a gentle glow. Ethan exhaled, staring at the stars beyond the nebula. "Hang on, kid. The hardest part hasn't even begun." The stars outside the viewport seemed sharper than ever, like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Ethan gripped the controls, eyes fixed on the glowing ruins ahead. Lyra sat beside him, her golden eyes reflecting the pulsing light of the Elendari towers. The nebula's colors shimmered around them, casting shadows and brilliance over her small, trembling figure. She reached out, her tiny hand resting over the mark on Ethan's arm, glowing faintly. "We're close," she whispered. Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of destiny pressing down on him. "Yeah, kid, and this is where it all changes." As they entered the main chamber of the ruins, the air shimmered with ancient power. Crystal towers hummed softly, energy lines crisscrossing like threads of light. Lyra stepped forward cautiously, eyes wide. "Mother," she breathed, the word fragile yet commanding. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the center of the hall, radiant and enormous, a queen of light and power. Her eyes burned golden, the same hue as Lyra's, and her presence filled the chamber like gravity itself. Ethan instinctively moved in front of Lyra, protective, heart pounding. The queen's gaze fell on him, not with anger, but with calm recognition. "Ethan Cross," she said, her voice echoing across the ruins. "You have done what no human has dared in centuries." Lyra ran to her mother, kneeling, hands outstretched. "Mother, it's me." The queen's light enveloped them both, golden tendrils brushing against Lyra's hair, her glow intensifying. Ethan watched, awe and fear mixing. Who is she really?" he whispered. "She is my daughter, the last heir of the Elendari," the queen said, turning to him. "And you have saved her from death. You have protected life instead of destroying it, as so many humans once would have." Ethan felt the enormity of her words, centuries of history and war compressed into a single moment. He swallowed hard. "I didn't know. I just couldn't leave her out there." The queen's golden eyes softened. "And that is why you were chosen to carry her through this darkness." Lyra looked at him, eyes shining. "You kept me safe," she said simply, her voice trembling with relief. Ethan smiled faintly, kneeling beside her. "Always, kid. Always." The queen raised her hand, and the ruin's energy pulsed, lighting up the chamber. Images of stars, worlds, and civilizations flashed around them, showing the galaxy as it once was and as it could be. Her voice resonated. The galaxy has trembled for her bloodline, for the power it holds. But today, humanity showed compassion, and the tide may yet turn. Ethan looked at the glowing sphere of energy hovering above Lyra's head, her aura mixing with the queen's light. He realized then the truth. She was not just a child, not just an heir. She was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of hope and unity. Outside, distant fleets froze mid-motion, sensing the change. The hunters who had chased them now hesitated, their signals confused by the queen's awakening energy. Ethan felt a warmth spread through his body, the mark on his arm pulsing in rhythm with Lyra's heartbeat. "Your courage has shifted the balance," the queen said, looking directly at him. "The galaxy will remember this day." Lyra looked up, smiling softly at him, golden light fading to a gentle glow. "We did it together." Ethan exhaled slowly, glancing at the nebula outside, serene yet alive, swirling in colors they would never forget. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also the spark of hope. Somewhere deep in space, unseen worlds whispered of change, alliances shifting, ancient powers reawakening. And yet here, in this chamber of light and shadow, a human and an alien child had rewritten what destiny could be. The queen extended a hand toward Ethan, her power immense but calm. "You are welcome among us, mortal, not as a soldier, but as a guardian." He shook his head. "I'm just a man trying to do the right thing." Lyra tugged gently at his sleeve, golden eyes bright. And that was enough. The queen smiled faintly, her image shimmering. "For now, humanity and the Elendari can begin anew, thanks to one act of kindness." Ethan looked at the glowing sphere of energy hovering above Lyra's head, her aura mixing with the queen's light. He realized then the truth. She was not just a child, not just an heir. She was a bridge between worlds, a symbol of hope and unity. Outside, distant fleets froze mid-motion, sensing the change. The hunters who had chased them now hesitated, their signals confused by the queen's awakening energy. Ethan felt a warmth spread through his body, the mark on his arm pulsing in rhythm with Lyra's heartbeat. "Your courage has shifted the balance," the queen said, looking directly at him. "The galaxy will remember this day." Lyra looked up, smiling softly at him, golden light fading to a gentle glow. "We did it together." Ethan exhaled slowly, glancing at the nebula outside, serene yet alive, swirling in colors they would never forget. He felt the weight of responsibility, but also the spark of hope. Somewhere deep in space, unseen worlds whispered of change, alliances shifting, ancient powers reawakening. And yet here, in this chamber of light and shadow, a human and an alien child had rewritten what destiny could be. The queen extended a hand toward Ethan, her power immense but calm. "You are welcome among us, mortal, not as a soldier, but as a guardian." He shook his head. "I'm just a man trying to do the right thing." Lyra tugged gently at his sleeve, golden eyes bright. And that was enough. The queen smiled faintly, her image shimmering. "For now, humanity and the Elendari can begin anew, thanks to one act of kindness." Ethan looked at Lyra, then out at the galaxy through the glowing walls, and whispered softly, "This is only the beginning." Outside, the stars shone brighter, the nebula calm once more. A new chapter was unfolding, one where humans and aliens might yet walk together. And in the quiet chamber, Lyra rested against him, safe for the first time in her life. Ethan held her gently, heart steady, knowing that together they had changed the fate of the galaxy forever. Sometimes one act of courage and compassion could shake the stars. Sometimes it could even rewrite history. And so, as the golden light of the Elendari queen bathed them all, the galaxy held its breath, watching, waiting, and beginning a new era of hope, unity, and wonder.